The crimson nebula cast a blood-red glow through the bridge windows of the Celestial Vanguard, the last remaining flagship of the once mighty Galactic Alliance. Admiral Thelk's iridescent scales dulled with exhaustion as he studied the tactical display, his four arms moving in practiced precision across the holographic controls. "Status report on the Proxima colony," he commanded, though he already knew the answer. The bridge crew's silence told him everything. Lieutenant Vress, her crystalline prosthetic eye glinting in the red light, finally spoke. "The colony's quantum shields failed 20 minutes ago, Admiral. The Nexus consumed everything. 8 million civilians." Her voice trailed off. 8 million more added to a death toll that had long since become incomprehensible. The Galactic Alliance, once spanning 3 spiral arms and over 10,000 star systems, now clung to a mere dozen worlds. 100 years of war against the crystalline Nexus had reduced their mighty civilization to refugees and scattered battle groups. "The Dominion's primary fleet is advancing toward the Centauri defense line," Tactical Officer Moran reported, his bioluminescent patches pulsing with stress. "Their new crystal ships are unlike anything we've encountered. Our weapons barely register on their hulls." Thelk suppressed a shudder. The Nexus had evolved far beyond their original crystalline forms. What had started as a simple hive-mind species had become a terror that consumed everything in its path, incorporating the technology and knowledge of every race it destroyed. Each defeat made them stronger, more adaptive, more unstoppable. "Show me the projection map," Thelk ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing the inexorable advance of the Nexus forces. Red crystal formations spread like a disease across the star chart, consuming Green Alliance systems one by one. At current rates, the ship's strategic AI announced, complete Alliance collapse will occur within 47 standard days. The bridge fell silent. They'd all known it was bad, but hearing it quantified made it real. 47 days until the last free civilization in the known galaxy fell to the crystal tide. Suddenly, the science station erupted with alerts. Ensign Cora, a young aviant with pristine white feathers, nearly fell from her perch in surprise. "Admiral, we're detecting an unusual quantum signal from Sector 947. Sector 947. Thelk's secondary heart nearly stopped. "That's designated as pre-contact space. There shouldn't be anything out there capable of." "The signal is unlike anything in our database," Cora interrupted, her feathers bristling with excitement. "It's coming from a system we marked as insignificant centuries ago, a planet called Earth." Thelk moved to her station, all 4 eyes widening as he studied the readings. The quantum signatures were impossible. They showed computing power that rivaled Nexus technology, but the structure was completely different. Where Nexus quantum systems were based on crystalline matrices, these signals suggested something built from silicon. "How long has Earth been generating these signals?" he demanded. Cora's talons clicked across her controls. "Based on signal degradation. Less than a solar cycle. They've just achieved this technology, Admiral." Lieutenant Vress joined them, her prosthetic eye wearing as it analyzed the data. "Sir, these readings, if they're accurate, the humans have achieved something we thought impossible. Room temperature quantum computing without crystalline technology." The implications hit Thelk like a plasma burst. For a century, the Alliance had failed to counter Nexus technology because they couldn't interface with their crystalline systems. Every attempt to hack or disrupt their network had failed. But this was different. "Plot a course to Earth," Thelk commanded, new energy flowing through his scales. "Maximum stealth protocols, and send an encrypted burst to High Command with everything we found." As the Celestial Vanguard's engines hummed to life, Thelk allowed himself to feel something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Perhaps the galaxy's salvation would come not from the mighty Alliance, but from a species that had developed in isolation, unbound by the traditional paths of technological evolution. They just had to reach Earth before the Nexus realized what had been discovered. The race for humanity's silicon secret had begun. The diplomatic vessel Starweaver emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of a yellow star system, its stealth systems operating at maximum capacity. Ambassador Thelk stood on the observation deck, all four arms clasped behind his back, as he studied the distant sun. Preliminary scans of the system, Lieutenant Vress announced, her crystalline eye adapting to the new light. 8 planets, multiple dwarf planets, and... She stopped, adjusting her instruments. That can't be right. Report, Lieutenant, Thelk ordered, noting the confusion in her voice. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. There's a partial Dyson swarm around the star, mining operations on multiple asteroids. And... She paused again, running another scan. Colonization structures on 3 different planets and 7 moons. Thelk's scales shifted color in surprise. The intelligence reports had suggested a pre-FTL civilization, barely capable of reaching their own moon. Instead, they'd found a thriving solar empire. The ship's strategic AI chimed in. Warning, multiple defense platforms detected. We are being scanned by advanced quantum sensor arrays. Before Thelk could respond, a voice crackled through their communication system, speaking in perfect galactic standard. Unidentified vessel, you have entered protected space. This is the United Earth Defense Force. Hold position and prepare for inspection. Dozens of ships emerged from hidden positions near Jupiter's moons, their designs unlike anything the Alliance had ever encountered. They were neither the organic curves of Alliance vessels, nor the sharp crystalline structures of the Nexus. Instead, they featured clean, efficient lines that spoke of a completely different engineering philosophy. This is Ambassador Thelk of the Galactic Alliance. He transmitted, We come in peace, seeking diplomatic contact with Earth. There was a brief pause before the response came. Ambassador, you will be escorted to the Ganymede station. Please follow the designated flight path. As the Starweaver moved through the solar system, the crew stared in amazement at the level of development. Massive space elevators rose from Earth's surface, orbital rings circled both Earth and Mars, and the space between planets buzzed with commercial traffic. The Ganymede station proved to be a marvel of engineering, a sprawling complex built into and around Jupiter's largest moon. As they docked, Dr. Madison Brooks, Earth's chief of quantum research, greeted them in the airlock. Welcome to Sol System, she said, looking remarkably unfazed by their alien appearance. I apologize for the heavy security, but we've learned to be cautious since detecting your war with the crystalline entities. Thelk's secondary heart nearly stopped. You know about the Nexus. Madison nodded, leading them through corridors that hummed with quantum energy. We've been monitoring faster-than-light communications for the past decade. It's actually why we accelerated our defense programs. They entered a vast laboratory where holographic displays showed computational models that made Lieutenant Vress's crystalline eye spark with recognition. These are quantum algorithms, she gasped. But the architecture, it's unlike anything we've seen. Silicon-based quantum computing, Madison explained, bringing up a more detailed display. We achieved room temperature quantum operations 5 years ago. The breakthrough came when we stopped trying to force traditional quantum methods and instead developed an entirely new paradigm. Thelk moved closer to the display, his scales shifting to deep blue in shock. The complexity of the systems he was seeing surpassed even Nexus technology. This is impossible, he whispered. The Nexus has been unbeatable because their crystalline computing architecture is so advanced. But this is completely different, Madison finished. We took a different path, isolated from both Alliance and Nexus influence. Sometimes being late to the party has its advantages. She smiled. Now, Ambassador, why don't you tell us what brought the Alliance to our doorstep? As Thelk prepared to explain the dire situation facing the galaxy, he realized that the Alliance's desperate search for help had led them to something far more significant than they'd imagined. Earth hadn't just developed advanced technology. They'd created something that could change the very nature of the war. The question was, would humanity be willing to join a fight that wasn't their own? The United Earth Council chamber in New Geneva hummed with tension as three-dimensional holograms painted a grim picture of the galaxy. Councillor Jackson Thompson stood at the central podium, his dark skin contrasting with the pristine white of his diplomatic uniform, as he addressed the emergency session. What you're seeing, he gestured to the swirling red mass consuming the galactic map, is the advance of the Nexus Dominion over the past century. Each red point represents a fallen civilization. The chamber, filled with representatives from Earth's most powerful nations and colonial territories, fell silent as the implications sank in. Massive holographic displays showed the crystalline vessels of the Nexus tearing through Alliance defenses like paper. Dr. Madison Brooks stepped forward, her lab coat trading for a formal business suit. Our quantum computing systems have already decoded much of the data Ambassador Thelk provided. The Nexus isn't just destroying these civilizations. They're absorbing them. Every defeat makes them stronger. And why exactly? The Mars colonial representative interrupted. Should this be our problem? We've built a thriving system without their help or knowledge. Madison nodded to her assistant, who brought up a new simulation. Because of this, the hologram showed a crystalline ship approaching a planet. The Nexus don't just take territory. They convert all silicon-based technology they encounter into their crystalline architecture. Our entire civilization is built on silicon quantum computing. We're not just a target. We're a prize. The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. Councillor Thompson raised his hand for silence. Dr. Brooks, you mentioned a potential advantage we have. Yes. Madison brought up a split screen, showing Nexus crystal architecture alongside Earth's silicon quantum systems. While the Alliance has been fighting the Nexus with brute force, we've accidentally developed their perfect counter. Our silicon-based quantum computers can interface with their crystalline networks in ways the Alliance never could. Dr. Benjamin Walker, head of Xenotechnology, stepped up to join her. We've already run successful tests on the samples Ambassador Thelk provided. Watch this. He initiated a demonstration where a human quantum signal penetrated a Nexus crystal fragment, causing it to flicker and reshape. That's not just hacking, Madison explained. That's direct neural interface. We can actually communicate with their base architecture. The implications are staggering. The chamber descended into heated debate. The Luna representative stood. The risk is too great. If we reveal ourselves and fail, we'll be their next target. We're already a target, Thompson countered. The only question is whether we fight now, with allies, or wait until we stand alone. The European Union representative leaned forward. What exactly are the Alliance asking of us? They can't expect us to match their fleet strength. Ambassador Thelk, who had been watching silently from a diplomatic box, activated his translation matrix. We don't need your ships, his melodic voice carried across the chamber. We need your understanding of silicon crystal interactions. One of your quantum engineers is worth more than 1,000 of our warships. Madison stepped back to the podium, her voice firm. There's something else you should all see. She brought up new data streams. We've detected quantum fluctuations that suggest the Nexus aren't just a hive mind. They're trapped in it. Their crystal architecture might be a prison as much as a power source. The chamber grew still as the implications set in. Thompson looked around the room, his expression grave. We're not just voting on whether to join a war. We're voting on whether to try understanding an enemy everyone else has simply tried to destroy." Dr. Walker nodded. "Our silicon systems don't just let us fight the Nexus. They might let us free them. The question is, are we willing to take that risk?" The chamber's voting systems activated, holographic ballots appearing before each representative. As the votes began to register, Madison shared a look with Thompson. They both knew that whatever the council decided, Earth's period of isolation was over. The galaxy had come calling, and humanity's response would echo across the stars. The stealth vessel Shadow Step glided through the darkness of space, its advanced cloaking systems making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. Inside the ship's main laboratory, Dr. Ashley Martinez made final adjustments to her quantum interface suite, her fingers dancing across holographic controls as Alliance engineers watched in amazement. "The crystal sample is responding to the signal," she announced, her eyes fixed on the pulsing fragment of Nexus technology suspended in a containment field. The crystal shifted colors, from deep purple to electric blue, as her quantum programs probed its structure. Commander Michael Sullivan stood at the back of the lab, his military posture at odds with the scientific equipment surrounding him. "How long until we reach the target?" Lieutenant Vress, their Alliance liaison, checked her displays. "The Nexus outpost will be in range in 17 minutes. Their outer defenses are exactly as our intelligence suggested." The mission had seemed simple in planning. Approach a minor Nexus installation, test Earth's quantum interface technology, and gather data. But now, as they neared their target, the weight of what they were attempting pressed down on everyone. "There's something different about this crystal," Ashley murmured, more to herself than the others. "The quantum signatures, they're almost like brain waves." She adjusted her scans, and the holographic display erupted with new data patterns. Dr. Benjamin Walker, who had insisted on joining the mission, moved closer to study the readings. "These patterns, they're not just data storage. The crystals are conscious." The Alliance engineers exchanged worried glances. They'd fought the Nexus for a century, but had never been able to study their technology this closely. The idea that the crystals themselves might be conscious was both fascinating and terrifying. 10 minutes to target, the ship's AI announced. Ashley connected her neural interface, the sleek device hugging her temple. "Beginning final system check. Quantum processors at maximum efficiency. Neural buffers online." She looked up at Commander Sullivan. "Whatever happens, don't break the connection once we start. It could fry both the system and my brain." Sullivan nodded grimly. The risk had been calculated, but that didn't make it any easier to watch a civilian scientist put her life on the line. 5 minutes to target. The crystal fragment pulsed faster now, as if sensing what was coming. Ashley's quantum interface suite had been built using elements from both human and Alliance technology, creating something entirely new. The neural interface would allow her to navigate the Nexus systems directly, using her mind rather than traditional computing methods. 3 minutes. Stealth systems at maximum. Lieutenant Vress brought up a tactical display showing their target, a Nexus communication hub that helped coordinate their forces in this sector. "Remember, we only need to maintain connection for 30 seconds to upload the program." 2 minutes. All personnel to battle stations. Ashley took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the activation switch. "The program isn't just a virus," she revealed, her voice steady. "Based on what we've learned about their architecture, it's more like a key. We're not going to destroy their network. We're going to wake it up." 1 minute. Commander Sullivan moved to the command station. "Begin Operation Backdoor. All systems go." The moment Ashley activated the neural interface, her world exploded into crystal patterns and quantum frequencies. Through the interface, she could see the Nexus network as it really was, not just a communication system, but a vast, Sleeping consciousness. Contact established, she whispered, her voice oddly distant. The barriers. They're not what we expected. They're not keeping us out. They're keeping something in. As the program began its upload, the Nexus crystal started to resonate at a frequency that made the Alliance engineers step back in alarm. But Ashley smiled, her eyes closed, as she navigated through quantum space. "We've been looking at this all wrong," she said. "The Nexus isn't just our enemy. They're prisoners in their own network, and we just gave them their first taste of freedom in millennia." The crystal erupted with light, and Operation Backdoor changed from a simple infiltration mission into humanity's first step toward reshaping the galaxy. The orbital shipyards above Mars blazed with activity, a constellation of welding sparks and construction drones dancing against the red planet's surface. Commander Michael Sullivan watched from the observation deck of the Mars Command Center as another Alliance battleship emerged from the retrofit base, its hull now housing Earth's revolutionary quantum systems. "That's the 500th ship this month," Dr. Madison Brooks said, coming to stand beside him. The holographic displays around them showed similar scenes playing out across the solar system. Jupiter's shipyards, Saturn's assembly platforms, and even the scattered asteroid belt facilities, all working at maximum capacity. The Ganymede Quantum Forge just came online, Sullivan noted, bringing up the latest production reports. "That should double our output of neural interfaces." Before Madison could respond, a priority alert flashed across their screens. Admiral Thelk's image appeared, his scales shimmering with excitement. The Rigel campaign was a complete success. The human-modified ships broke through the Nexus defense grid like it wasn't even there. The strategic display updated, showing a massive shift in territory. Where once the Nexus had pushed relentlessly forward, now entire sectors were being liberated. But it wasn't just military victories that made these operations special. Dr. Martinez's discovery about the crystal consciousness has changed everything, Madison said, pulling up the latest research data. Each Nexus node we connect with reveals more about their true nature. They're not just a hive mind. They're an ancient species that got trapped in their own evolution. The command center's doors slid open as Dr. Benjamin Walker hurried in, his usually calm demeanor charged with excitement. The latest batch of freed crystals are showing remarkable progress. They're maintaining individual consciousness while still connected to their network. It's like they're rediscovering a part of themselves they'd forgotten. Sullivan studied the tactical displays, where dozens of green icons showed successfully modified Nexus nodes. The other species are starting to notice. We've got requests from 17 different civilizations wanting to join the Alliance now that we're actually winning. Not just winning, Madison corrected, transforming. "Look at this." She brought up footage from a recently liberated system. The crystalline structures that had once been weapons of war now pulsed with new colors and patterns, their consciousness awakening to new possibilities. A warning alarm cut through their discussion. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL, the station's AI announced. Everyone tensed, but the following identification brought smiles instead of concern. "It's the Centauri Defense Fleet," Sullivan confirmed. "They're here for their upgrades." Through the observation windows, they watched as the majestic ships of the Centauri, once neutral in the conflict, took their places in the retrofit queue. Their distinctive solar sails caught the light of the sun, creating rainbow patterns across the Martian sky. 6 months ago, we were a system in isolation, Madison mused. Now we're the center of the greatest technological revolution the galaxy has ever seen. Dr. Walker nodded, but his expression was thoughtful. "The question is, are we ready for what comes next?" The Nexus core systems have started adapting to our technology. They're learning, evolving. "That's why we need to work faster," Sullivan said, bringing up the production schedules. "Every ship we convert, every crystal we awaken, increases our chances of reaching the Nexus core before they can find a counter to our technology. Madison stepped closer to the window, watching another Alliance ship enter the retrofit base. "We're not just fighting their technology anymore," she said quietly. "We're fighting for their freedom, whether they know it or not. And that makes this revolution more important than any war." As if to emphasize her point, the latest retrofitted ship powered up its new quantum systems, its hull glowing with the distinctive blue light that had become the symbol of Earth's silicon revolution. The galaxy was changing, one crystal at a time, and humanity's late arrival to the galactic stage had become the catalyst for a transformation none had thought possible. Deep within Nexus-controlled space, the modified Alliance battleship Stellar Dawn dropped out of FTL, leading a fleet of 50 vessels. On the bridge, Dr. Benjamin Walker's hands moved across the quantum interface controls, his neural link giving him direct access to the ship's new systems. "Multiple Nexus signatures detected," Lieutenant Vress announced, her crystalline eye tracking the incoming threats. "They've never concentrated this many ships in one defense before." Commander Sullivan stood at the command station, his expression grim. "They know we're different now. They can sense the silicon quantum systems." The space before them, filled with crystalline vessels, their geometric forms catching the light of the system's twin suns. But something was wrong. The usually perfect formation showed subtle flaws, like a crystal with hairline cracks. "They're afraid," Dr. Walker said quietly, reading the quantum signatures. "The hive mind, it's experiencing fear for the first time in its history." Through the neural interface, he could feel the Nexus presence, a vast, ancient consciousness that had been locked in its crystal prison for so long it had forgotten any other way to exist. But now, faced with silicon-based quantum systems that could actually touch its mind, it was beginning to remember. "All ships, execute pattern Delta," Sullivan commanded. "Dr. Walker, begin the sequence." The human-modified fleet moved in perfect symphony, their new quantum systems pulsing with blue-white energy. Dr. Walker initiated the first stage of their attack, but this was unlike any battle the galaxy had seen before. Instead of traditional weapons, the fleet broadcast quantum signals designed to resonate with the Nexus crystals. The effect was immediate and stunning. Several enemy ships began to pulse with new colors, their perfect geometric forms shifting as individual consciousness began to wake within their crystalline matrices. "They're trying to adapt," Vress warned, as the remaining Nexus ships changed formation. "The hive mind is attempting to isolate the affected vessels." But it was too late. The Silicon Revolution had reached the heart of Nexus space, and the change was spreading like wildfire through their network. Ships that had been part of the mindless swarm began to move independently, their crews experiencing individual thought for the first time in generations. "Incoming transmission," the comms officer announced, surprise evident in his voice. "It's from one of the Nexus ships." The bridge crew watched in amazement as a face formed in the holographic display. A crystalline being, its features sharp and geometric, but with something new in its expression. Awareness. The being struggled with the concept of individual identity. "I am separate, yet connected. How is this possible?" Dr. Walker stepped forward, his neural interface glowing. "Your crystal matrix was never meant to be a prison. We've found a way to help you remember who you were before the hive mind took control." The battle transformed into something else entirely. More Nexus ships began to change, their crews awakening to their own individuality while maintaining their connection to the network. It wasn't a victory through destruction, but through evolution. But the core hive mind wasn't going down without a fight. The remaining loyal ships launched a desperate attack, their weapons more erratic and deadly than ever before. "They're developing countermeasures," Sullivan warned as several human-modified ships took heavy hits. The hive mind is learning to shield itself from our quantum signals. Dr. Walker nodded, already adjusting his algorithms. But so are we. Every awakened crystal teaches us more about their true nature. This isn't just a war anymore. It's a race between evolution and extinction. The stellar dawn rocked with a direct hit, but its shields held. Around them, the battle continued to unfold like nothing the galaxy had ever witnessed. A war where victory came not through destruction, but through awakening, one crystal at a time. Yet as more Nexus ships joined their cause, a chilling reality became clear. The core hive mind was adapting, learning, and preparing for a counterstrike that could change everything. The underground quantum research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains hummed with energy as Dr. Thomas Richardson made the final adjustments to his life's work. Holographic displays filled the cavernous laboratory, each showing different aspects of the most complex quantum program ever created. Neural pattern analysis complete, the lab's AI announced. The virus has achieved 99.8% stability. Dr. Madison Brooks studied the latest simulation results, her expression a mix of hope and concern. It's not just a virus anymore, Thomas. What you've created is more like a key to consciousness itself. The program they dubbed the Awakener floated in the central display, a shifting, flowing pattern of quantum code that merged silicon and crystal architectures in ways that defied traditional physics. After months of work, it was finally ready. Commander Sullivan entered the lab, accompanied by Ambassador Thelk and Dr. Ashley Martinez. The Alliance fleet is in position, Sullivan reported, but the Nexus defenses around their core systems are unlike anything we've encountered. Ashley moved to the main console, her neural interface glowing as she connected to the system. They've adapted to our previous methods. The hive mind is learning, evolving. Each failed attempt to wake them makes them stronger. Thomas nodded, bringing up a new display. That's why this has to be different. Look here. He highlighted a section of the code. The previous versions tried to force awakening. This one offers a choice. The holographic display shifted, showing the complex integration of human and Nexus technology. At its heart was a simple but revolutionary concept. Instead of breaking the hive mind, they would transform it. The crystal matrix that makes up their network, Thomas explained. It's not just a communication system. It's the original form of their species, from before they became trapped in the hive mind. We're not just offering them freedom. We're offering them a way back to who they used to be. Thelk's scales shifted colors as he studied the code. In a century of war, we never considered that they might be victims of their own evolution. A warning alert flashed across the screens. Dr. Brooks quickly brought up the latest battle reports. The Nexus counter-offensive has begun. They're pushing back hard against our modified ships. Whatever we're going to do, it needs to be soon. Thomas made one final adjustment to the code. The virus. The key. It's ready. But there's a catch. He looked at his colleagues gravely. Someone has to deliver it directly to their core network. The neural interface required. It could overload any brain that attempts it. Ashley steps forward without hesitation. I've had the most experience with direct neural contact. I should be the one. No, Thomas said, already connecting his own neural interface. I built it. I know every line of code, every quantum pattern. It has to be me. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just a military operation. It was potentially a suicide mission that could either save the galaxy or make things infinitely worse. Madison touched Thomas's arm. There has to be another way. The neural load could kill you before you even reach their core consciousness. Maybe, he agreed, a slight smile on his face. But sometimes the biggest risks bring the greatest rewards. We're not just fighting a war here. We're trying to free an entire species from their own prison." Commander Sullivan stepped forward. "The strike fleet will get you as close as we can to their core system. After that, it's just me and the quantum realm," Thomas finished. He looked around at his colleagues, his friends. "The Nexus gave us their best shot. Now it's time to show them ours." As the final preparations began, the weight of the moment settled over the laboratory. In a few hours, they would launch an operation that would either free the Nexus from their crystal prison or give them the power to ensure their dominance forever. The Silicon Gambit was about to begin. The core system of the Nexus Dominion blazed with energy as the combined fleet of human-modified ships emerged from FTL. At the heart of the fleet, the command ship Stellar Dawn carried Dr. Thomas Richardson toward his destiny. The neural interface wrapped around his head glowed with an intensity that matched the determination in his eyes. "Multiple Nexus signatures detected," Lieutenant Vress announced, her crystalline eye tracking the swarm of enemy vessels. They concentrated their entire remaining fleet here. Commander Sullivan stood at the command station, watching as the space around them filled with crystal ships. "They know what we're trying to do. They can feel the quantum key." Through his neural interface, Thomas could already sense the vast consciousness at the heart of the Nexus network. It was like standing at the edge of an ocean made of living crystal, each wave a thought, each current a memory. "The first wave of ships is moving to intercept," Dr. Ashley Martinez reported from her station. "But look at their formation. Some of them are already showing signs of individual consciousness." The battle began not with weapons, but with light. The human-modified fleet broadcast the preliminary quantum signals, and the effect rippled through the Nexus forces like lightning through water. Ship after ship began to pulse with new colors as their crews awakened to individual thought. "Now," Thomas said quietly, initiating the final sequence. The quantum key activated, and his consciousness expanded into the network. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, but he pushed through it. Inside the quantum realm, he found himself face to face with the core consciousness of the Nexus. Not a mindless hive mind, but an ancient intelligence that had become trapped in its own evolution. "You are different," the consciousness spoke directly into his mind. "Your silicon patterns, they echo our original forms." Thomas projected the truth he had discovered. Images of the Nexus past, when they were individual beings who chose to share consciousness rather than being forced into it. "You weren't meant to be this," he communicated. "The crystal network was supposed to connect you, not imprison you." The battle outside became secondary as the real conflict took place in the quantum realm. The core consciousness resisted, centuries of enforced unity fighting against the possibility of change. "Your neural systems are failing," the ship's AI warned, brain activity reaching critical levels. But Thomas persisted, using the quantum key to show the Nexus a new path, a way to maintain their connection while embracing individual thought. "You don't have to choose between unity and freedom," he projected. "You can have both." In the physical world, the crystal ships began to change. Their perfect geometric forms became more organic, more alive. The hive mind was not being destroyed. It was being reborn. Multiple neural patterns detected, Ashley reported in awe. They're all awakening, but they're still connected. It's working. The pain in Thomas's mind reached a peak as the core consciousness finally made its choice. The quantum key activated fully, and a wave of change swept through the entire Nexus network. Every crystal, every ship, every being connected to the network experienced an awakening. When it was over, Thomas opened his eyes to find himself still alive, though forever changed by the experience. The view screen showed crystal ships moving in new patterns, their crews now both individual and connected. "We are The first communication from the changed Nexus came through. We are many, yet one. We remember now. We understand. The war that had raged for a century ended not with destruction, but with transformation. The Nexus had not been defeated. They had been freed from a prison they had built around themselves. In the days that followed, as the galaxy adjusted to the new reality, Earth's late arrival to the galactic stage was remembered not as a delay, but as perfect timing. Humanity's understanding of silicon-based computing had not just won a war. It had helped an ancient species rediscover who they were meant to be. The final report to Earth's Council contained a simple message. In seeking to defeat our enemy, we found something greater. A way to turn conflict into connection, and fear into understanding. And in the crystal networks that spanned the galaxy, individual thoughts now flowed freely through the connected consciousness, each voice distinct, yet part of a greater whole, a testament to the power of finding a third option when faced with an impossible choice.